Gandeeva is one of the most dominant decks in Cardfight Vanguard. It released in set 10 Dragon Masquerade and was clearly the best deck from that set onwards. That is, until the deck got hit with a restriction. Stirgna got restricted to only one copy, and the deck slowly fell out of the meta. But what made it good? How come a deck that can be built from only one set be so dominant? Let's talk about it. Gandeeva was the top meta deck from the set it released, and Gandeeva himself had 3 main skills. The first skill is when your opponent's rearguard is retired, bind a card from your drop zone face down. The second skill is to counterblast one and choose 5 of your opponent rearguards with different grades, and retire those that had the same grade as your top 5 cards. If you retire 1 or less, draw a card and bind the card from drop zone. The third skill is the one that ties it all together. For each face down card in your bind zone, your front row gets 2000 power, and if 5 or more are bind face down, your Vanguard gets a critical. Stop! If I had to ask you which skill is overpowered, which one would you say? I'll give you 3 seconds to think. The answer is none of them. These skills aren't the problem. You probably said it was the third skill, the skill that scales Gandeeva's front row power indefinitely. But as we've seen, after the ban to Stirgna, Gandeeva isn't as overpowered as it was, despite Gandeeva himself being unchanged. So what's the actual problem? Let's take a look at Stirgna. On place, Soul Blast 1 to bind another rearguard to retire one of your opponent's rearguards. Okay, that's pretty good. Soul Blast cannot be counterplayed, so to counterplay, all I need to do is just to not have rearguards so Gandeevas cannot continue to accelerate the... If you did not retire, draw 1 and bind. Okay, never mind. Stirgna's strength lies within 2 things. 2 things that I believe made Gandeeva too strong. First is the ability to retire for only a Soul Blast. Soul is something that you cannot deny in the game, and by the time you're grade 3, you will always have 3 Soul. Another is the draw 1 and bind if you did not retire. This is a form of anti-counterplay. Gandeeva's biggest strength that made it too strong is that it can achieve its strong skill without being counterplayed. Cards like Stirgna, Rugrunt, and Best Harvest are all cards that want to achieve the same thing. Retire your opponent, build your bind zone, and draw. The problem with Stirgna and Rugrunt to an extent is that they do not have counterplay, and more importantly, they draw more cards. You can't counterplay their bind zone acceleration by not having rearguards because they bind regardless if you have rearguards. You can't counterplay their draw engine either because they draw due to Best Harvest. Best Harvest lets you draw when you retire a rearguard, so with the order active, Gandeeva can just keep drawing cards regardless of if you have rearguards or not. With the draw, they can just keep drawing into more cards that accelerate the bind zone, fueling their bind zone and accelerating so fast to the point where the power gain on their first grade 3 turn can reach plus 15 to 20k. You can't guard a turn that's swinging for 30k columns with a 2-crit Vanguard when you're only on grade 2. Those cards make Gandeeva too good, but even after the nerf, Gandeeva is still a very solid deck. The right line gives you a free counterblast on your first grade 3 turn, so you can't even damage deny them. The right line also negates your minus for the right deck. Alpha Car is a staple for the deck that gives you multiple attacks while accelerating your bind zone. Brachio Force is also used to provide early on-hit pressure and cycle. Last but not least, Bravodin is an insanely good new card that released in set 12 that provides consistency for your Gandeeva skill that checks top 5 while also helping you to accelerate the bind zone and cycle cards. Something to note is that while Bravodin is a good card, it is not as good as Stirgna, because with Bravodin, you cycle in the battle phase and do not bind cards when nothing is retired. While with Stirgna, you cycle in the main phase, which allows fast draw into more pieces and bind cards regardless of retire or not. Retiring rearguards is so easy for Gandeeva that they had to print Bastion Accord in order to check Gandeeva. It's what Eugene wishes to be. Thank you for watching this short video. 97.1% of you guys aren't subscribed, so please subscribe or Gandeeva will retire all your rearguards. I also made a Twitter account, so please follow me there. Thank you.